All right, everybody, welcome to another edition at Calfee Now, and this is a special one for me. This is a good friend of mine. I'd call her a sister, Congresswoman Shontel Brown. So also Cuyahoga County Democratic Party Chair Shontels Brown. Let me not shortchange your titles here. So Congresswoman, how you doing today?
Fantastic. How are you? Happy New Year. It's good to see you, although in a box, but it's still good to see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm going to hand it off to Jamie, and he'll start off with the first question, and we'll get right into it.
All right.
Congresswoman, we thought a good place to start for our audience would be for you to tell a little bit about your background and how you first got into politics.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Calfee. Thanks for having me. I appreciate this opportunity just to share my background story for folks who don't know. I started out as a city council representative in Warrensville Heights, and what led me to run for that seat was in the earthquake tragedy that struck in Japan. Now, that might seem like a strange thing, but it prompted the question, where would we go in the event of an emergency? And that's what led me to my city council meeting. And there, I learned a lot of things, but one of the things that I learned most poignantly is that there was room for some improvement. So rather than complain, I'm a person that believes in being the change that you want to see. So I rolled up my sleeves, pounded the pavement, introduced myself to my neighbors, and told them I wanted to be their city council representative. And Jamie, they were quick to point out things that needed to be addressed, like potholes that needed to be filled, tree branches that needed to be trimmed, and sewers that needed to be cleaned. But as I continued to go to the meetings, I cultivated relationships with the administration who availed themselves and said, if you need help out there, let us know. Well, I took them up on that offer. And next thing you know, tree branches were getting trimmed, sewers were getting cleaned, and potholes are getting filled. So I'm feeling good, Jamie. Election day comes, the polls close, and I was down by 6 votes. I thought to myself, okay, well, this must not be for me, and that I was likely never going to run for office again. I'm like, besides, I'm getting the work done. Who needs the title? Well, little did I know there were 23 provisional ballots in the race. 11 days later, I learned that I had won by 7 votes. 7 votes. And so 7 votes changed the entire trajectory of my life. For those who know me, I'm not shy about my faith. As a child of faith, 7 represents perfection, completion, and God. And so I often attribute this journey of public service to his divine intervention, grace, mercy, and favor. And that has really been the moral compass, the guiding force, and the foundation in this work that I purposely describe as public service, because I know how I got here and I know who I work for. Fast forward 3 years later, became Cuyahoga County Council representative in a race where there were 6 of us. We earned 48% of the vote, much different outcome than my first. And then finally, now just last year, 2021, which is special for me because 21 represents 3 7s, and it was my 3rd race for public office. And so I kind of felt like there was some divine connection there as well. And early voting started on July 7th, which is 2 7s. So here I am in a 13-way race where we won the 50% of that vote. And it came down to 2 dynamic African-American women. And I'm proud to say I won that race with the help of many people on this call and have been proudly serving as the 4th member to represent this area. And it means so much to me. So that's my story. That's my journey. So it's been quite a journey, but one that I never anticipated when I first decided in 2011 to run for city council.
Congresswoman, it's my turn. Hi, great to see you again.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about districts and redistricting, okay? Recently, the Ohio Supreme Court struck down plans for redistricting for both the state of Ohio's House and Senate, as well as the congressional districts and congressional map. Now, under that failed congressional map, out of 15 congressional districts, only you and Congresswoman Beatty would have been in districts that were leaning Democratic, right? So can you share your thoughts on redistricting and how redistricting may have an impact on your and the Democratic Party's ability to accomplish some of the administration's goals?
Well, you don't know how much I appreciate that question, Ray, and it's good to see you also. Happy New Year. Listen, it has been encouraging in that the fact that the Supreme Court made their decision, but we, as you pointed out, and one of the things that I like to quote about David Pepper, former chairman of the ODP, is that Ohio is more rigged than red, right? when you consider the number of registered voters or how the voter turnout shakes up, we were very much considered a purple state, but because of the way the maps have been drawn, that is not reflective in our elections or our representation. When you think about the fact that Ohio had 16 congressional seats, and let me also highlight this point that I don't think it's enough attention. We lost a congressional seat by 11,000 people in the census count. 11,000 cost us a seat in Congress. And so now we're going from 16 to 15. Now I'm a person that, would look at that and say, okay, well, how do we maintain our 4 at the very least? Well, no, the Republicans decided to draw the maps in such a way that we went not down to 4, but to 2. So it's egregious, it's offensive, it's disgraceful, because the numbers do not indicate that. So I'm happy that hopefully someone like Congresswoman Shontel will get a chance to potentially retain her seat, because she's the dean of the Ohio delegation. She sits on appropriations. The power and the influence that she holds and for our state as a whole is so valuable. To risk that by putting someone new in that seat jeopardizes the future and the potential for us to be able to capitalize on this very slim majority that we already hold in the House and the Senate. So it means a lot just to be able to maintain the majority. It means a lot in Ohio to have reflective representation. It means a lot when it comes to fairness around our elections. When we're challenged with voter suppression here in Ohio, these are the things that are critically important and are tied to how these lines are drawn. So I can't overstate the importance. For me, it is going to change it ever so slightly because Cuyahoga County is like navy blue, right? So as much as they may try to make it, play with the lines, it's really hard to get a Republican elected in Cuyahoga County. But it's not impossible. So things are changing in a lot of ways. But if we're going to be positioning ourselves to be able to deliver the administration's agenda, which has been a good one, and let me also say has accomplished a lot in what I would consider the first quarter of a game. If this were a game, this is just the first quarter. It's a 4-year term, and we've been able to pass historic legislation. So it means a lot, Ray. But for me personally, I'm hopeful that Congresswoman Shontel will benefit more. And I'm hopeful that we'll see someone like Representative Sykes be able to represent us, the more southern part of Summit County, the southern part of Ohio and Summit County, with her potential ability to run. So there's a lot of possibility out there. So fingers crossed. We hope for the best, but prepare for the worst and capitalize on whatever comes our way.
Amen to that. So in switching gears just a little bit, Congresswoman, one of your first votes when you got to DC was helping to pass the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is, we're all hearing about the historic investment that this is. Every city, county, municipality, larger region is looking to bring some of those dollars in their backyard. You sit on 2 committees, House Agriculture and Oversight, and wanted to sort of give you a chance to see how do you see your committee roles in implementing these laws and helping drive some of these dollars to Northeast Ohio, and what are you looking forward to in that large bill as far as opportunities for Northeast Ohio?
Well, thank you for that. So yes, I like to brag and say that, yesterday I was actually on a call with members of the Ohio delegation, including Senators Portman and Brown, and my fellow colleagues, Capter and Gonzalez. And Senator Portman highlighted the fact that, there have been multiple presidents. He went on to say, 30 years we've been talking about doing infrastructure. So I like to brag and say on my second day, I was able to get it done, okay? So, but the reality of the situation is, and it's funny, I said that to Congressman Clyburn, and he said, why do you think we work so hard to get you here? But because the majority is really that slim, it took knowing that we had that number of votes to be able to get it across the finish line. But the most exciting thing about it is it was bipartisan. We can work together, people. So it's one of those things that I felt very proud about. How it impacts us, tremendous ways. Roads, bridges. Just last Friday, I was able to do a press conference announcing that Ohio will receive $96.7 million to address our bridges. Now, I had the pleasure of having by my side Dave Wondolowski from the Cleveland Building Trades and Construction, as well as Dan O'Malley from the AFL-CIO. They said that type of investment will create hundreds of jobs. We're talking about over 1,300 bridges, 1,377 small to medium-sized bridges in Ohio that are at a C- level or worse. And so the priority will be on the bridges that naturally that need the most attention and have the highest traffic, and that allocation will be appropriated by the state. But the jobs that alone will create, we've got 650,000 lead pipes in Ohio that need to be, that the administration is committed to taking out. Again, the jobs that will create. So not only the jobs though, if many of you know me, one of the pieces of legislation I was most proud of as a local legislator was declaring racism as a public health crisis. That was fundamentally driven by our infant mortality crisis, which is also tied to lead pipes, lead exposure, and things of that nature. So when we talk about the investments that are going to be made to create jobs, reverse course on decades of disparities and discrimination, that is what this bipartisan infrastructure bill will be doing. And last but certainly not least, another thing that I couldn't be more excited about is the internet, high-speed broadband internet. This pandemic showed us how important and how critical it is. Here we are having this call online via high-speed internet access. So many people, I think if I remember what Senator Sherrod Brown said, in Cuyahoga County, 38% of the households in Cleveland do not have access to high-speed broadband internet. Some of it is because of affordability, and some of it is because accessibility. Well, the bipartisan infrastructure bill will address both of those things. So it is going to really improve the quality of life, and I think it's going to help us deal with the economic wealth gap, because the Biden-Harris administration has also been diligent and very intentional about making sure that the investments are equitably distributed. So there are opportunities for minority businesses to be able to capitalize on these investments, because there are, again, they were very intentional about inclusion and equity when they drafted the legislation and when we decided to pass it. So seeing the president 2 weeks after being elected sign this legislation into law, certainly one of the highlights, and probably could very well be one of the biggest highlights of my very short time in Congress, because again, all jokes aside, this has been talked about by multiple presidents, multiple members have been working on this for decades. And so we've finally been able to get it done under the Biden-Harris administration. So it's going to do wonders. And I think we can start seeing some of these projects take shape before the end of the year, hopefully. So we'll start to see these dollars in our community in the not so distant future.
That's excellent.
So Congresswoman, I'll ask the next question. Members of Congress tend to specialize on issues or areas of concentration that are important to their district or are in their committees that they serve on. And I was just wondering, and I think we may have already heard some of this, but are there specific issues that you want to concentrate on? And have you thought about future committee assignments in the next Congress?
Well, so that's a great question. I'm going to go in reverse with the committee assignments, because I think the last time I had a chance to speak with you, I was talking about financial services, but what I've learned since then, oversight is a pretty powerful, influential, and highly sought after committee. And what's good about being on oversight, I wasn't waived on. I would have had to be waived on to a committee like financial services, which ultimately affects your seniority, and your seniority, as many of you know, greatly shapes your influence and impact in Congress, right? Along with, so your seniority and your tenure. So I wasn't waived on to either of the committees. So with all of the retirements and members seeking higher office, I think I'm probably in the 300s right now, right? So I'm no longer 435 out of 435. We had 2 members come in behind me, so technically I'm 433 out of 435 until next year, when all of the members retire or seek higher office, and who knows how many people will be defeated or come out victorious. So I'm very happy with my committee assignments. I also can say that I've been able to pick up the torch of my predecessor on agriculture. We think agriculture, well, it really fits. Ohio is a farming state, but when you think about the district, Shontel, there's not many farms in the 11th. Well, I don't know if you know this, but Ridolph Farms is the largest urban farm in the state of Ohio, and it is in the district. So there's been a great emphasis put on investing in urban farms as well as vertical farms, using old dilapidated buildings and maybe converting them into buildings that could be used to create indoor farming facilities. In addition to that, agriculture also deals with an issue that's very near and dear to my heart: nutrition and school nutrition and meals and SNAP. So there's so much opportunity that that these committees present for me that work well and complement the district. And you can count on me to really maximize those opportunities as they present themselves. So I don't know that I want to make any changes, Jamie. I'm pretty satisfied with the committee assignments that I've received. Now, unless something exclusive like appropriations or ways and means comes up down the line, those are the 2 biggest, and I think probably most highly sought after, next to energy and commerce. I think that's another one that would be good, but I don't see that happening probably for at least another 2 to 3 terms. And then finally, issues that are important to me as it relates to the 11th Congressional District. I'll share some advice that Chairman Benny Thompson, who's overseeing Homeland Security, he chairs Homeland Security, but he also is overseeing the January 6th committee. He said to me on probably I don't even know if I was officially a member yet, but he reminded me the importance of not getting caught up in the Washingtonian politics and making sure that you stay close to the people who can actually keep you here. And so as a result of that, I'm gonna always stick close to my roots, which is equity and inclusion, making sure that whatever issues come before me, that those who are in the greatest need receive the resources and support that they need. So constituent services has been a very high priority for me, and making sure that people understand that we are a partner to be able to help them. And that is something that I think stretches across all categories, if you will, whether it's business, whether it's civil service, whether it's government, whatever area that touches people's lives. I want it to be equitable and inclusive. And I think that we're able to achieve a lot more when we start looking at through that lens of equity and inclusion. So that will be continue to be my highest priority as it relates to issue in any and every category that comes before me.
You know, Congresswoman, that really transitions real well to my next question. For all the years that I have known you, you have worked very, very hard for your constituents and for members of the Democratic Party. And over that time, you've really earned the respect of your colleagues, and you've developed relationships that are necessary to achieve all those goals that you had. Describe for us, and for a second, relationship building is a great skill that you've got. You've got that down real pat. So describe for us how you plan to use that skill as a new member of Congress to build bridges and not walls among those colleagues you've got in Washington now to achieve all those goals that we've talked about today.
Yeah, so I will say this, it's been an interesting dynamic. So what we see on the news is a lot of polarization, a lot of division, and yes, there is some of that, I will admit. But there are so many things that we are able to get done that goes unnoticed, and that people, I mean, I've taken over 80 votes, and some of them, many of them, the majority of them have been passed with bipartisan support. And so I'm happy to say, once I got there, I was well received by both sides of the aisle. The reception has been warm. I'll tell you 2 funny stories. One, I'll give you the worst of the 2. So the getting off of the elevator, I'm less than 2 weeks in. It's 435 members. I don't know who's who, but what you can tell in the halls of Congress is that it's very evident who's who, because Democrats are generally masked, Republicans are not. But I speak to everybody. You know my personality, Ray. I don't care. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how's it going? Hello. So I get off the elevator, I speak to this guy, and he just brushes by me. He doesn't say anything. And so I'm with Connor, who's on the call, and I say, gosh, some of these people are just so rude. And he says to me, Ms. Brown, that was the member that posted the video about killing AOC. I said, oh, okay, well then that kind of makes sense why you wouldn't speak to me. But on the flip side, my second day, while we were waiting to cast our ballot for the bipartisan infrastructure bill, I run into a colleague and he's like, hey, great speech yesterday. Welcome. We're excited to have you. And he said, I sit on the other side of the aisle, but you know, we really do. We're glad you're here. And in my true fashion, I said, well, can you help us get this bill passed? You know, we're waiting for votes today. I said, so can you vote with us today? And he says, I don't know. He said, I'll vote with you, but I probably won't vote your way. So, I mean, so there's that banter, there's that camaraderie, but on the much more positive highlighted side, the Ohio delegation, Dave Joyce has been super friendly, as well as Anthony Gonzalez. And so we've got legislation right now that I've introduced that they're sponsoring, co-sponsoring with me. So bipartisanship does exist. So the thing that makes the job hard is, again, it's 435 members. Some of them turn over. You need 218 people to pass legislation. So it's about focusing on those 217 folks that share your same principles and values and convincing them to vote your way. And that's the difficult part of the job. So Ray, in true Shontel fashion, I'll continue to talk to everyone and see if I can get them on my side to make sure that I'm delivering for everyone on this call, because that is my job. So I'm not too caught up in the fact that, you know, there are people in the media that drives this wedge between us, and hopefully when we're sitting down, like when I had my meeting, Senator Portman came to my office and shared some things, but we have to have those difficult conversations. Can we get the Voting Rights Act passed? Where can we meet? What's the issue? What's the holdup? Because too often I think we've been so divided. What can unite us? Where can we find? So people have to be willing to share what they want. I think what's been happening is we've just been hearing what people don't want. Tell me what you want so we can work from there. What do you stand for? What do you want? Let's figure that out, and then we can go from there. But I think this elusive, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. Well, what do you like? Give me a place to start from, and then we can go from there.
Well, Congresswoman, I want to thank you again, from the team at Calfee. You've always been good to us. Anytime we call, you're there, and anytime we ask, you pick up. So this is kind of what we call the freestyle point of the show, where you can kind of just say whatever you want to our clients, to our friends of Calfee, to your people on the firm, to the 11th Congressional District, because as you can imagine, a lot of our clients are residents of your district. So the floor is yours, Congresswoman.
Well, thank you. I just want to thank you. You say I've been good to you, but you've been as good to me. So it's a reciprocal relationship. And Mike, you have always been a solid friend, a great supporter, and I really appreciate you, as well as Ray. There's so many things that I could say about you, but I will take advantage of this time to say, look, I am up for re-election. It's a 2-year cycle, right? And so I need your continued support. If you like what I've been doing, if you appreciate the fight, and not just the fight, but the champion, being able to win on issues is what I'm hyper focused on, then, I need your help to keep me here. So these opportunities mean so much because it helps me get the message out. I think too often we have not been boastful enough, and I'm not one to boast either, but we've been able to do a lot under this administration in a short amount of time. Yes, it's easy to look at what we haven't done, but when you think about the historical investment of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, that alone is, again, it's historic, it's life-changing, it's going to do wonders for our district, and I could not be happier. We've got new leadership coming into in the mayor seat and coming into the county executive position. So this is an optimum time for us to really grow and reverse course on so many things that we haven't been able to get done successfully. So I'm in it for the long haul. If you could continue to have me, I'm happy to serve. I feel like this is my groove. I feel like this was made for me, and I love the job, and I want to continue doing the job. So if you're happy with the work that I've been doing, spread the word and help send me back. So that's all I have. Thank you.
We appreciate the time, Congresswoman, and obviously we appreciate everybody tuning in to Calfee Now. Have a good one. Bye.